Have you ever heard that statement? You can do whatever you set your mind to? Apparently, we use this statement, we overuse this statement a lot. And just last night, I even asked my students, do you believe that you can do whatever you set your mind to? I mean, like everything. And I have to admit that most of them said no, we can't. And they're right. So let's see how we should look at it. First of all, there are things that require no effort at all. Do you think you can do those? Of course you can. Then there are things that are easy. Can you do things that are easy? Yes, of course you can. How about things that are hard? Yeah, I'm sure that there are things that you can think about that are hard, that you can do it. But then we get to this point, which is the hardest thing that you think that you can do. And one of the exercises that I like to do is I ask my students to reach out with their hand. And I ask them very specifically, reach out as high as you can. And they raise their hand and they reach out as high as they can. And then I ask them, reach out higher. And they may stretch or they may stand or they may get on the table or the chair or something. Make sure if you do that nobody's going to fall and nobody's going to hurt themselves. But they can reach higher than what they did originally. When I ask them specifically, reach out as high as you can. So you can actually stretch what you can. You can actually stretch what you can achieve. And you get to the point which is the hardest that you can actually do. And there is a level of hardness that is the hardest thing that you can actually do. What if you want to reach higher than that? What if you want to achieve something that's harder than that? Well, there are things that are impossible for you to do alone, but then you can get help from other people. The power of team. And together you can do the things that are humanly possible and get to that line which is humanly impossible. And together, even as a team, maybe even if as a very large team, you can't do it even together. Can you do things that are harder than that? Well, I asked my students and they immediately said, yes, we can use tools. We can use robots. We can use machines. And of course, somebody would always say, we can use artificial intelligence, which we can. And then we get to a line that we can't cross. Even by using other people, using tools, using machines, using artificial intelligence, and there are things that are actually impossible. Moving the planet, you can't do that. Change its axis, you can't do that. There are things that are impossible for you to do. So there are things that are hard, but you can still achieve. There are things that are impossible for you to do alone, but you can do it with a team until you reach what's humanly possible or humanly impossible. And you can cross even that line using tools or using artificial intelligence. But yes, there are things that are just impossible. So I don't like the statement, you can do whatever you set your mind to. What I tell my students, my daughters, everyone I know is, at least know this. You can do more than you think. Not everything, but you can do more than you think. You know what? You can do a lot more than you think. But you also need to realize that there are things that you can't do. There are things you can't do alone. There are things that you can't do with other people. There are things that you can do with other tools or artificial intelligence. And that's okay.